Hollee McCormick is a lifelong resident of rural Iowa and is the Executive Vice President and General Manager of Allamakee-Clayton Electric Cooperative. She previously served as the Co-op's Manager of Economic Development and Community Relations. She's an executive member of Governor and Lieutenant Governor's Empower Rural Iowa Initiative, as well as a committee member on Connecting Rural Iowa Task Force. Thank you for joining us, Hollee.
Thanks for having me.
Second, we've got Mike Schon. Mike is the general manager at Archer Co-op in Archer, Iowa. He's lived in Spencer for the last 21 years and has extensive cooperative experience throughout his career, including livestock production specialist with Land O'Lakes / Farmers Co-op, farm lab instructor and adjunct professor at Iowa Lakes Community College, and grain manager, VP of Sales and Marketing at Cooperative. Please welcome Mike Schon.
Great to be here, Katie.
And you guys can hear Mike, but you can't see him. He did warn us that he has a face for radio, which we all laughed about. Some of you that were on early maybe heard us joking about having a cardboard cutout here, or a recording of Mike saying watermelon, kind of lip sync to what he was actually saying, but we won't actually do that.
And I won't dance either.
No TikTok for Mike.
No TikTok today.
I'd like to go ahead and turn it over to Dr. Jacobs and allow her to introduce herself once again to the group and get things started. Thanks, guys.
Good morning, everyone. Katie, are you able to hear me okay? And Hollee and Mike?
I am.
Perfect. First, thank you to the interns and the new employees who may be joining us. I do recognize some of the names from the last session, so really appreciate you joining us back. This session is going to be quite a bit different than that first session. This is an opportunity to ask some questions of some people who have been very successful in cooperative organizations in our state. If you missed the first session, my name is Keri Jacobs. I'm an associate professor in the econ department at Iowa State University. I teach a course on cooperatives, so I was happy to see that maybe someone had taken my co-ops course. I do recognize the name on there, and fair warning, if I recognize your name in the panel, I may be inclined to call on you, so in the attendees panel. So we do want this to be very interactive. I'm very happy you're here. Just a little bit of background on me. I grew up in Eastern Iowa in Monticello, Jones County. And Iowa State was my first job out of grad school in 2010, and I started learning about co-ops in 2012 and have been in this position since then. So it's fun to be here. This is something we've done for a number of years, and I welcome you to this. Before we get started, I want you to, as Katie said, we want this to be interactive, and this is your opportunity to ask some questions where these might be questions that you're otherwise maybe afraid to ask your supervisor. Two things that I think in particular that to get you kind of primed and thinking about, whether it be about your current job experience, maybe a past experience, or as you look ahead, what do you wish you could ask someone about career challenges, career positioning, potentially about interviews, or how to navigate a workplace? That's something that you can ask today. And I'm sure, by the way, if it's a question you're interested in, probably some of your colleagues on the phone are also interested in that. So please don't be afraid to speak up. We have that chat box there, and Katie will be monitoring that. The other thing is, what do you wish you could ask your future self, wanting to know about kind of, what you see for yourself as the path? What do you wish you could know now that you'll eventually look back on 5-10 years down the road? I think Hollee and Mike are in unique positions to be able to help you think through some of these things. And so really, really want you to use this time to get some questions answered that you have. We had pre-discussions with Hollee and Mike and Katie and I, and they're fascinating. They've got really good insights into careers. And so please use this opportunity for that. I think now would be a good time. Hollee, do you want to get us started? And Mike, I would ask you to go next. Can you just explain your career path to where you are now, kind of what you're doing now, and what were some unique features of that path along the way?
Sure. Well, if I could have had a crystal ball, I would have probably never seen myself as the general manager of an electric co-op. That was just not on my radar at all. But life happens, and my path was I was an education major, and right out of college, I managed an after-school program for a couple years. And then in my hometown, a satellite community college center was just opening. And I thought, well, I wouldn't be teaching, but I'd still be in the education world, and I think I'd really enjoy it, and I got the job. And while I was there, I quickly realized that I did have interaction with students, but more than anything, I was playing an administrative/business type role. And I liked it. To my surprise, I really, really enjoyed that side of it. So while I was there, I realized I think I should get my master's degree in business. And I did. And then I did that for about 8 years. And I learned a lot of community relations, economic development, overseeing staff, hiring, that type of, just a lot of business acumen, I would say. And then my local REC, which really I've been a member of my whole life, but didn't pay a whole lot of attention to, was looking for somebody to do community relations and economic development. And when I read the description in the paper, I thought, well, I kind of do a lot of those things. Maybe I should give that one a try. And I got the job, and I did that for 5 or almost 6 years. And then our general manager was retiring, and I had learned enough about the electric cooperative world in the meantime that I knew this is definitely where I want to stay and finish out my career. And so here I am, and actually today almost exactly marks 1 year as our general manager. So
congratulations.
Not predictable, my career path. I'm so happy the way it's turned out. So
excellent. Thank you for that. Mike, how about you?
So for me, I think my path was maybe a little bit more predictive than Holly's, but I always knew that I wanted to be in agriculture. I had a sit down with my dad when I was in high school, and I come from a large family, and he said, you got to figure out your own way to pay for college. So I joined the military, and after 21 years, I finally retired from it. But that allowed me to go to Iowa State and get my degree, Bachelor's of Science degree. But my path has always been, I guess I always believe in having a vision, having a career instead of a job. And I've always strived towards that vision. And that vision is to help people like my father. My dad was not successful at farming. He went through the late 80s, early 90s and struggled and was not successful at it. So I kind of set my career path towards, if there is something that I can help the farmer be better at, I'm going to do that. And because of that, I started out on the feed sector as a livestock nutritionist, feed salesperson, converted to Iowa Lakes Community College, teaching incoming freshmen animal science and running their teaching farm. I reverted back to the co-op again, who asked me to spearhead and oversee a marketing consulting program. I was a Series 3 commodity broker, and I helped farmers with risk management, cash grain marketing. I left the co-op again and became a grain manager at an ethanol plant. But then my purse strings continued to pull back at the co-op, and I went to Pro Co-op as their grain manager and eventually their vice president of sales and marketing before I finally landed here as a general manager at Archer Co-op a couple of years ago. So for me, it was a vision. It was a goal that I had, that I wanted to succeed and help people where, if I would have been where I am today 25 years ago, it's my belief that I could have helped my father be successful through his farming career. And that's kind of the goals that I set because of it.
Yeah, very good. Thank you for that, Mike. So what I'm hearing from both of you, and I'll make this point and then maybe we could break to see if anyone has any questions. You guys both chose a career. Well, Holly, yours ended up in the co-ops, but maybe it it didn't start there. What are your experiences as you've moved through specifically cooperative organizations? Because that's what this session is about and the workshop is about. What experiences have you had that you think are unique to the cooperative organizations that you've worked in or interacted with that kind of draw you to them versus outside, or maybe a same company and a different company in the same industry?
Well, I'll say for me, we're a power company, so right when I started in this job, as I mentioned before, I've been actually a member of this co-op my entire life. But did I know that or pay attention? Not really. But once I was in this cooperative world, it didn't take me long to realize we are all about our members. Our members, we're member owned. We're governed by a board of directors who are our members, but every single decision we make, every cent we spend, we always are relating it back to how does this benefit our members? And we're driven by 7 cooperative principles. And I would say it was within my first 3 months of employment with the co-op that I realized I love those 7 cooperative principles, and every business should run on a premise like that. And I love the way that we relate everything back to our members and how it affects them and how would it upset them, how would it please them. We examine everything from that viewpoint, and not only does it feel good, but it's motivating as an employee. You enjoy it. I enjoy it. I enjoy knowing that we're directly serving, 10,000 people, and they are all part owner of us. Therefore, we got to do what's right by them.
Thanks for that plug on the 7 co-op principles and the academic side of that. Mike, what have been the dimensions of cooperative organizations that you have appreciated or that have been attractive to you as you've worked through your career?
Well, I think one of the first things that I noticed, and this is agriculture in general, there's a lot of good people, and they stay for a long time. It's proven. I've got a total of 28 positions at our small cooperative, and I've got 14 people over the age of 60. I've got a lot of people that are tenured. I have 2 people that work here that have been here over 45 years, 2 other people that have been here over 40 years, 2 others that have been here over 20 plus years. I mean, those people stay because they believe in the system, and it's a good system to be a part of. So that's one of the things. The other 2 other things is it's a lot less corporate. And what I mean by that is I've worked in the corporate venue as well as the cooperative. There's a lot less red tape. Your boss. I always say I get to see the whites of the eyes of my employees, and they get to see mine nearly every day if you want to see them, and that's a good thing. And then lastly is it's very multifaceted. If I just look at my career, I've converted from feed to sales to marketing and risk management to grain to sales again, and then to management. And I look at that and go, wow, I mean, you're able to encompass so many different facets just by saying, I want to be this, I want to drive to do this, and if you find that drive and determination within yourself, you can be all of those steps. And I think it's a neat career path to follow.
Cool. And so what I hear both of you saying there is you've both had quite a bit of diversity of your career experiences. Do you think that's unique, or do you think when you look across who your contemporaries are, who are perhaps leading organizations like yours, your experiences have both been kind of wandering a little bit to get to where you are now? Is that common, or is that more unique to you guys? And where I'm going with this is that diversity, is that what helped you get to this point rather than having a straight line?
I guess I can answer that first, Holly, if that's okay. I think diversity is super important. It makes you marketable. I had a college professor a long time ago tell me, Mike, if you're not looking for your next opportunity, you're either in the best job of your life or you're too damn lazy to get out of it. And that doesn't mean that I'm out searching for another job. What it does tell me, though, is that I'm open to the idea of new things. And I think I've always kept my options open and always been willing to listen, to learn, and to look for opportunities, not necessarily out there with my resume flashing around saying I'm looking for a new job, but looking for the opportunity to learn something to make myself more well-rounded.
Great. And Hollee, anything come to mind for you, or?
Well, when I think of my colleagues who are also managers of electric cooperatives in the state and really in the nation, they do not have as varied of a background as me. Most of them got a job at the electric cooperative, and that's where they've been, because as Mike alluded to, they're good jobs and there's good people, and people tend to stay. I've had a little bit more of a diverse path here, and I'm glad I have, because I have a new appreciation for working in the cooperative world because of it. And it's interesting because I see other people who come in who haven't been, lifers in the co-op world, and they too have a new appreciation once they're in it. So it's a little bit the best of both worlds. You have a lot of, like I said, we call them lifers who have been here forever, and they have years and years of experience and knowledge. But then when we bring people who have a little bit more of a diverse career pathway, they bring some real benefit too. They've seen other things. They understand that the cooperative way isn't the way everywhere else, and it's attractive here.
So I want to pause just a second to the participants. I see we have 41, so I'm going to guess that there's probably 35 interns or new employees. What questions do you have at this point based on what you're hearing Hollee and Mike discuss in terms of their own career paths? You should be able to unmute yourself, I believe, or maybe you've sent questions to Katie. Okay, I've got one here. It says, thank you for this. It's in private, so I won't name the name. What advice do you have for someone who would like to be a general manager someday? And I'm gonna presume it's open to either a general manager of an electric co-op or a general manager of a grain and farm supply, or just generally of a company. Thank you for that question. So what advice do you have someone who aspires to ascend to that?
Well, for me, a couple of things. One, be willing to share your ideas, be willing to step up. I always say, speak your mind. I don't know what I don't know. You're not purposely being ignored, but I'm not a mind reader. You do have to start at the bottom, but I will tell you that even if you start at the bottom, you can take on leadership roles in everything that you do. I have a young, new applicator, custom applicator, and this kid is out washing his machine every day after he gets in from the field, even if he's the last guy here. He picks up a broom, he does something, he asks questions, he's inquisitive. Don't expect anyone to drive your career other than yourself. And if you want to be that general manager or the sales manager or whatever you want to be, you can do it, but you have to be willing to put in the work.
I will echo that. I do not think that there is an easy glide path into management. You have to have a willingness to learn. You have to have a willingness to work hard. You have to be willing to prove yourself. And I would say if there's ever any leadership or learning opportunities that are presented to you, take them. That really shows your colleagues and your coworkers that you are interested in bettering yourself and learning more. Jump on those opportunities if they're presented. But again, I'll echo, there's no glide path. You're gonna have to work hard.
So that brings up a question about, as general managers, when you're thinking about who within your organizations you're looking to groom, whether it be a potential you see in a new employee who you're onboarding or an existing employee, what types of characteristics other than I mean, the outward ones you talk about, asking lots of questions. What other characteristics are you looking for in employees that give you signals about their ability to tackle hard things that general managers and upper level management have to tackle?
Well,
That's
for
a hard
me,
question.
one of the first things that comes to my mind, and I ask this of all of my employees, you will have problems that you cannot solve. But in order to come to me with that problem, the first thing that I will throw back at them is, what do you think is your recommended solution to this problem? I don't want them to come into my office and then just throw up a problem on me and then walk out the door and go, there, my hands are clean, I don't have to worry about it. I challenge them and I say, okay, you may not know the answer, but what do you think is the answer? And then right there is my coaching moment. That gives me the ability to talk to them and say, well, I think you're on the right path, or, well, let's think about this a little bit more. But it's a problem will come that you will not be able to solve. I inclusive of that statement, but come with some idea of a solution. That creates critical thinking. That is exactly the kind of employee that I am looking for to groom for that next level, whatever that next level is. If you can think critically, make decisions on the spot that sometimes require very quick critical thinking, you will do well, and you will, over time, move yourself up in leadership roles.
Thanks,
I
Mike.
agree. Another one I see, you know, it is really evident to me when employees are looking to only better themselves and not really the greater good of the company. So of course, as human beings, we're always looking to improve our own lot in life. But if you can also prove that, you know, you're looking to make the whole organization better, you know, people pick up on that pretty quick versus you're just out to, you know, make things easier for yourself.
Yeah, good point. So the flip side of that is, so you've identified kind of what you're looking for as mentors and people who are going to be grooming the next leaders. What are some of the mistakes you see, particularly new employees or interns making in their role that they may not realize these are mistakes they're making, or maybe they're not huge mistakes, but they're subtle ones that you pick up on that they should try and work on? That, and I should tell the participants here, we had discussions about what types of questions we might talk about, and I don't think that was on the list. So I apologize to Hollee and Mike for throwing that out there.
Oh, I think that's okay. By the way, we want this discussion to go the route of what you all want it to go. So we don't need cropped statements or anything, but, you know, to Keri's question, I would challenge you not to just get stuck in the day-to-day without seeking improvement in yourself or in the business, like Hollee alluded to. Yes, the day-to-day has to happen, and yes, that is critically important, but you have to have enough foresight, enough proactive thinking to know what's next, to know that second and third order effect of what you do today, how it will impact the business and yourself tomorrow. So that constant state of seeking self-improvement and business improvement while you're doing the day-to-day. Now, that's the part that can really burden you at times, like you feel like you're just almost tapped out for your resources because it feels like you're juggling so many things. But yes, you got to turn on the lights and lock the door when you leave, but you have to know the reason why you turn on the lights and why you lock the door when you leave, and how that has an impact on the bigger picture of not just the day-to-day, but the long-term effect of the job that you're performing.
And mistakes, you know, mistakes that I see that maybe don't allow for as much growth is maybe getting there's always politics and there's always some gossip and stuff like that in an office. Stay out of that. I mean, just stay out of that. I know I'll say from my own experience, we have some employees here who are probably pretty good employees, but they just get too caught up in gossip and what everybody else is getting and they're not. And it really reflects poorly on them. Everybody sees it, and they're not our best performing employees. So just don't go there. Do your job and do it well and be a team player, but don't get bogged down into some of the minute details that aren't really helping anybody. That's
good.
My advice.
Yeah, that's something that I have to remind myself with as well, throughout. It's a practice, right, of just rising above it and staying above it and being part of a solution rather than propagating a problem. Yeah. Thank you for that. Any questions from the audience that you'd like to share? You feel free to unmute yourself. You're a safe distance away. We can't bite at you. We can't do anything. So feel free to ask.
Can't even see your
Hi,
face.
Keri.
So
This is Trey.
Hey, Trey.
I had a question for Hollee and Mike. So say after college you're given 2 job offers, one from a cooperative and one from a non-co-op. What are some of the main reasons why you would choose the cooperative position?
Good question. Hard question.
Well, for me, I believe each individual has to have their vision of what their true goal is from a career standpoint. And there's a difference between a career and a job. A job is something that you just show up and do. It's task and purpose. But the career is where you want to be. I always I think Keri had the comment at the beginning about a question that you, the interviewee, should maybe ask the interviewer at the end of those. They always say, well, do you have any questions? And one of the questions I always would throw back as an interviewee is, where do you see me, the interviewee, the person that's trying to get the job, where do you see me in 1, 3, 5 years within this company? Because it gives you a glide path of, well, I just see you in the same spot. I'm just hiring you to be an operations person, and operation person you will be. End of statement. Or is it there are multiple opportunities? I always tell people that, I look at the age of my workforce and say, I need people to step up. I will have people step up because I need people stepping into leadership positions because of just the age of my workforce. So from a cooperative standpoint versus corporate, since I've been in both, I will tell you that the mindset of the corporate mentality is make the money. That's your job. Make the money. Find a way to make the money. In the cooperative, it's more of service. Take care of your customer. Make sure you believe in what you do, because that, seals the deal with them continually being, comeback business. So it's an entirely different mentality. So from me having experience in both and continually being drawn back to the cooperative, hands down for me, based on my vision, it's be at the cooperative. Find your path within the cooperative. But everybody's a little bit different. You got to have that vision first to know what you want.
Right. And I will also echo the serving others. If you're working for a cooperative, I'm not saying in other industries you're not serving others, but you will feel that every day, that I'm important to people, because I'll use my own example. People want their lights and they want their air conditioners. So every day we can feel like we're really, we're serving our members, and that's a good feeling. And we're a familial, I think most cooperatives, there's a real family feel. It's not, like Mike alluded to, just make money, make money, make money. Obviously we have to, be solvent financially, but we're not paying our dividends to shareholders. We're paying our dividends back to our members. That's the difference. The other thing that I know some cooperative employees is meaningful for them is we have a really rich history. We were founded in 1938. It's kind of fun and maybe even a little bit empowering to look back and see all of the things that we've been able to accomplish in 80 plus years of serving members. Every now and then we still hear from people who remember when they got electricity at their farm or home or whatever.
Yeah.
Those are just a few biggies for me.
Right.
Biggies I know for some of our other employees.
So both of what you are talking about is these, if you think about head versus heart, these are very heart reasons, right? These are reasons to speak to personal values, motivations. What about, and I know historically, and you guys probably know better than I do, in terms of compensation packages and total benefit packages, are there any differences, or what should interns and but someone who's contemplating working at co-op, what types of things they need to keep in mind about the compensation differences they might find, not necessarily focusing just on wage, but other benefits that exist at cooperatives?
Every year when I do performance evaluations, I sit down with the employees and do what I call a total compensation package. And it's for them to understand that it's more than just about the salary or the per hour rate. It's super critical to know the benefits that you have. And I will tell you that navigating the world of healthcare is a confusing mess at times, but healthcare costs have been rising 10 to 25% per year, especially if you don't have a good solid policy. And a 3 to 5% raise each year will not cover those healthcare premium costs that you have to pay if you don't have a good policy. A lot of the cooperatives have consolidated and have been able to group together to reduce premiums and things. Their retirement packages I've seen a lot of times are second to none, which are very, very critical. I know you all may be 20-something right now, but when you get to my age, I still feel like I'm 20, but I'm twice your age. And yet this retirement that I've been looking at for the longest period of time is really starting to build. A lot of co-ops have a pension type plan as opposed to a 401k, which is more guaranteed funds as opposed to you live and die by the marketplace. Most other companies don't have that in today's environment. So there's a ton of hidden benefits that you need to understand, because when I show people what their actual salary is, if I add in the total compensation that the co-op pays for, whether it be a portion of your health insurance or injects money into your retirement, that is at times 25 to 30% of your total compensation. So I always tell employees, I'm not oblivious to the fact that people are going to go out once in a while and see what's out there in the job world and interview for jobs. But I said, if you think, making $20 an hour because I pay you 18 is what you need to do, I says, actually, when I add your compensation together, I says, you better be asking that other employee for $25 to $28 an hour, because that's what your net break even would be. And they're floored by it. They are absolutely floored by that number. And I said, if you guys go out and look for a job, hey, that's if you benefit or better yourself, by all means, but just make sure you're asking for the right amount of money, because I think you'll be surprised if you don't understand your total compensation package. So I think that's important to know.
We do offer a pension here. And like you said, it's almost unheard of. People just don't offer pensions anymore. So that's a huge draw when we're looking to attract employees. So, we do the pension, and then we also offer a 401k, which that's only self-funded, but most of our employees then can do both, and they do.
Yeah. So I think that's something that's really unique historically about cooperatives, and I'm glad you both mentioned that pension. That's kind of what I had in mind, is this idea of providing a pension to employees. So from my understanding, when you aggregate the years of service and the contributions of the employer towards that pension, those two things combined, that employees tend to stay in their careers at cooperatives. You're set up really well after, once you retire, to support support that cost of living. And so this isn't a session that we necessarily have time to go into differences between 401ks and pensions, but I would encourage the interns and the new employees. Well, the new employees have already figured it out, but the interns, be asking those questions about, as Mike said, this total compensation package and how they really square up, because the hourly wage is not going to give you an idea, the best idea of what your total compensation is.
Absolutely. You just totally investigate that.
Yeah. One thing I want to come back to, it was mentioned, well, let me stop really quick. Any questions from our participants? Or maybe even there's a supervisor out there who has a question that they want to highlight and have their participants hear from Hollee and Mike about. Feel free to ask that as well. I'll pause for just a second to see if anyone wants to chime in. Oh, and I just heard from Katie that there will be a discussion of 401k and pensions in next week's session. So stay tuned next week. I'm glad to hear that. Feel free to unmute yourself or send, oh, I do have a question. Great. Thank you to this person who sent this. When talking about salaries for cooperative employees, what is the percentage of salary pay versus hourly? So I think the question is, how many of the employees are paid on salary versus hourly? And whoever asked that, if you want to clarify that, feel free to send me a private message. Mike or Hollee, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, here, I would say probably about a quarter of our employees are salaried, and we're a little bit different setup because all of our linemen, which it makes up about half of our employees here, are union. So we negotiate a union contract every 3 years, and they are all hourly. But we have 41 employees total. About a quarter of them are salaried, probably.
And we're going to be real similar here too. And there actually is actual guidelines on what qualifies as a salaried position versus an hourly position. A lot of times a salaried position is someone that is in charge of other individuals or performs a sales role within the company, whereas an hourly position is someone that typically is not in a leadership position to be an authority over others. And that's just a general blanket statement. It doesn't mean it's impossible, but there are some requirements on salary versus hourly. I will tell you that based on when you go into a job or a job interview, make sure you understand especially in the ag world, we know that it has an air of seasonality to it, where we've got the spring and fall season where you can put in a tremendous amount of hours, and you may want that overtime as an hourly individual. So just make sure that you understand clearly your overtime benefits or lack thereof, because as a general manager of our co-op, you'll see me in a tender truck in the spring, and I will be there till 9 or 10 at night, and I'm a salaried individual. And you just need to get used to that and buck up and say it's what we needed to get done for the company. So you may not be getting paid for it, but you're still getting paid for it.
Yeah, thanks for that, Mike. Go ahead.
Too, with a salaried employee means that you have to put in enough hours so that the job gets done.
Yes.
Any other questions from the participants? I haven't received any in the chat box. Feel free to unmute yourself. I want to go back. Hi.
My name is Olivia, and my question is, in terms of the cooperative, what is something that you are looking forward to this year?
Good question. Thanks, Olivia.
We are an electric cooperative. However, we also are doing broadband internet. And this summer, we have a couple fiber projects that we're gonna get into, hopefully by the end of June. So that's something I'm looking forward to, is bringing improved internet service to people who really want it.
For us, we're kind of a unique, we have a unique niche. We have 4 primary revenue streams. 3 of them are pretty typical that you see in an ag supply co-op. It's grain, agronomy, and feed. But the fourth one that we actually have a layer operation. So we have 250,000 chickens that lay eggs. We do about 1.2 to 1.3 million eggs a week that we package ourselves. We've made some improvements. I've learned one of the things that I've never been a chicken farmer before, but I learned pretty quickly how to be one. We're finally on the cusp now of doing some benchmarking in the industry. When we look at how we're doing relative to the industry, we're kind of on a benchmarking tool that we can use now to benchmark ourselves versus other layer operations. So I think just that learning curve of understanding how we rate relative to others over this next year will be really impactful for our operation.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the question, Olivia. And I do have a follow-up on that. So thinking about, Olivia asked about what you're excited about in the next 1 year. In terms of for your employees, and we've talked about this, about the turnover that's coming in ag, what is the growth potential in your organizations? Like Hollee, if you want to start, what's the growth potential look like in your electric co-op going forward?
So I'm just going to have you clarify. When you say growth potential, you mean as an employee?
As an employee, or how the business will grow?
Okay. Well, nationally, really, energy sales are pretty flat. So do we anticipate that we're going to have a huge influx of energy sales? No. We're focused on maintaining there. But our growth strategy is our broadband, is our internet division. And as far as growth for employees, in the next 5 years, I think 30 to 35% of our workforce is going to retire. So there's growth opportunities there for existing employees and for new employees trying to get their foot in the door. And, we mentioned this earlier, and I just want to point out again, I think a lot of times people think of an electric cooperative and they think, oh, linemen work there. Linemen do work there. About half of our staff is linemen, but we also have a fleet mechanic. We have 4 people in an accounting department. We have a marketing department. We have somebody who does economic development and community relations. We have staking engineers. We have a GIS department. So there are all kinds of jobs available that make this place run. So when you're out there doing your job searching, make sure you check out the electric cooperatives in whatever area you're looking for, because they are really good jobs and there's a variety of offerings out there.
Thanks, Hollee. Mike, how about you for
so we are one of 6 single location cooperatives left in the state of Iowa. So we're small.
And that's
I always say what's that?
That's impressive, by the way.
Yeah, I always say we're a David among Goliaths, but we have 28 employees, 14 of which are eligible to retire within the next 3 to 5 years. And we are not unique in that regard. 50% of my workforce will be gone in 3 to 5 years. And I think I've said this before, I have to have someone step up and be that next leader, mid-level manager, whatever you want to call it. The other thing where the growth potential is in our industry is automation. We are converting our facilities over time into basically mini computers that can run entire facilities. And you can see that throughout the cooperatives. Technology is here, whether it's auto steer in our applicator machines, or it's programmable logic automation, or PLCs that control our feed mills and our grain warehouses. This automation is something for the young individuals that they seem to really embrace, a phenomenal opportunity for them to jump in and take the lead over some of us more salty or seasoned individuals that maybe aren't as keen on all of this technology and stuff. And you can really take a leadership role. So there's a lot of growth potential to step up very quickly into those areas.
And I just want to piggyback on that. And Hollee, don't mean to step over you if you've got something to add also. I know you've already spoken about this, but from my perspective in academia, and I did grow up, I was in my teens in the 80s, and we went through that farm crisis in the 80s, which not just impacted farms, but it impacted rural areas broadly. We have a whole generation that basically shied away from ag, didn't go into ag, didn't stay in rural areas, and we're seeing the effects of that now with retirements. And Mike and Holly, I think this is what you were referring to. There's going to be some key retirements at high levels. That doesn't mean you're going to move into the high level immediately, but it means that that force is pushing everyone up, and there's going to be a big need. So I think these new employees and interns are in a unique position to take an opportunity of some really quick growth in the industry if they position themselves properly and take heed of some of your advice and be inquisitive and work hard and all those things. So just my 2 cents,
Absolutely.
what I see coming down the pipeline. We have about 5 minutes. So here's an opportunity. If you're still on the call, participants, here's your opportunity to ask questions. And without that, I would ask Mike and Holly, what are some wrap-up things we've talked about a lot? What are some wrap-up things you'd like these participants to keep in mind throughout this summer and as they go forward in their career? Words of wisdom, great advice.
Mine is, as you're starting out, work really hard at being interested in whatever it is you're doing. You can be interesting later. You have to be interested first.
I like that.
For me, it's pretty simple. There's only one constant in your life, and that's you. Every job you do, there you are. If you don't change you, then don't expect your employer to make the changes either. It's you. If you leave a job and go to another job, you are still there. So it's you that makes what you want to make of it, not somebody else. So, the blame game and it's somebody else's fault or anything like that, you got to start looking in the mirror because you're the constant. You're there whether you're at home or you're at work or you're at another job. So if you fix you, then the job that you do will fix itself.
Great advice. Again, that's one of those things that I think we have to continue to practice throughout our career. Both of that advice, Holly and Mike, is focusing on what we can control, right? And making sure we're prepared for the next opportunity that comes. Any final questions? Katie, I don't know if you had any wrap-up questions or if there's questions you've taken from the audience. If you're a participant, now's your opportunity. And you probably get bonus points from your supervisor for asking questions.
This is Katie. I just wanted to take a quick second to remind folks there will be a post-session evaluation that just pops up automatically. It's not like a push notification or, like spam mail or anything like that. It's just 4 simple questions. Would really appreciate you guys filling that out. We had a number of participants fill that out for session 1, and that was really helpful. It helped us identify the issue with polling, for instance, but also, what resonated with the folks that were able to participate. And what you'd like to hear more about. So, we're doing these in a format where we can tailor them week by week, and that gives us some opportunity, next week even to answer some questions that you may have about benefits or the financial process that way. So please don't take that responsibility lightly. We'd love to see more responses this week. That's all I had to add.
Great. Well, I'd like to conclude. Mike and Holly, thank you so much, and Katie for organizing this, for giving me the opportunity to participate in this. If any of the participants have follow-up questions for each of you based on what they've heard today, are they able to contact you?
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you. I'll make sure that your contact information is posted as well, so that it can be accessed through GoToWebinar. You'll find their bios there as well, but we'll make sure to get that information out to each of our attendees.
Great. And Holly and Mike, thank you for all you do in the co-op world. Really appreciate it, especially here in Iowa.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great week. We'll see you next week.
See you next week.